Hello again, everybody. You're listening to the Total Basis Podcast, and I am your host, Felipe. With me, as always, is Sean Flannery. Sean, how you doing this evening?
I am awesome. Just another day. Once again, another weekday show. This is feels very alien to me, but I'm all for it. So here we go.
Yeah, we got to adapt to the holiday schedule. This year, Halloween fell on a weekend. Sorry, Christmas fell on a weekend. So we figured, hey, you know what? Let's get ahead of the curve here. Let's do some Monday night Monday night baseball talk. Who's playing tonight anyway? Monday night football.
I have no clue.
No clue.
Zero clue.
Yeah, well, I don't know what Team Clue does, but yeah, they're not making the playoffs this year. But at any rate, we are going, as you can see on the big screen. I could probably make that a little bit bigger. It's not a big spreadsheet, so let's make it adjust the size a little bit. But on the spreadsheet, as you guys can see, we're going to be talking about, we're going to recap the best rookies of 2022, something that we try to do at the end of the year. And I figured, and I had to think about it. Why are we waiting till late December, mid-December to get these things off? And you know what I came to the conclusion, Sean, is it's a damn lockout. The lockout has
it set us all back.
Set us back by a lot. So we're finally catching up. Otherwise, this would be the last episode. But I feel like I have one more episode in us before we go, and I'll talk about that later on as the show progresses. But as you can see, Sean, these are the best rookie hitters according to the 4 statistics that I use to compile. And as always, I use a kind of a roto standing scales, where if, for example, Julio Rodriguez if he would have led the league in weighted on base average, he gets 10 points for that. Second place gets 9 points. Third place gets 8 points, so on and so forth. 10th place gets 1 point. And I did that for the 4 statistical categories, and I came up with a total. And this total is telling me that Julio Rodriguez is the best rookie of 2022. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
Yeah, I think that was pretty clear. Although it wouldn't take much for you to twist my arm and sell me on Adley Rutschman.
Yeah.
Just as, Julio Rodriguez was solid defensively, but 90 more plate appearances than Adley, and they were in a dead heat in terms of F4, Fangraphs calculation of WAR. Pretty close in terms of WRC plus, 146 to 133. And that was with Adley really having a slow start. But yeah, definitely either of those two, you can't go wrong. Julio is the 5-tool stud. Adley is that possible Buster Posey 2.0. We've been saying it for a long time, but he could be a really special, just all-around player.
Yeah, that's a really good comp, the Buster Posey one. But yeah, you know how I'm always doubting catchers because I've been burned by so many of them, but this might be the one. This might be the 1 in 100 type of situation where this is a guy, the next Yadier Molina, well, better than Yadier Molina, but in terms of longevity, he could be it. Could be Joe Mauer if he stays healthy. Could be Buster Posey if he stays healthy. And he can hit, which for us, for our selfish reasonings, is a big plus. So I could see that. And Julio Rodriguez did slow down at the end of the year as well, and his strikeouts were pretty alarming, which makes me kind of concerned for his future value. But you know, if you have the bat speed for it, you get away with it and just put up explosive production numbers. And Rodriguez is that. In the Julio Rodriguez Adley Rutschman sandwich is Michael Harris II, which was another late call up, so to speak. The Braves needed outfield help, and Michael Harris became that 5-tool player that the Atlanta Braves needed. And he was probably very instrumental in their comeback. As you remember, Sean, you're a Mets fan. They got off to a slow start, and they fought tooth and nail to get back and win that division. They did win the division, right?
By one. It was a tie at 101 wins. They had the tiebreaker in the head-to-head, 10 games to 9.
Yeah, so there you go. Michael Harris is second, living up, and not only is, you're gonna see this a lot, Sean, and I hope you're seeing the pattern here. but you're gonna see a lot of guys that we talked about during our prospect shows this past season.
Yep.
Michael Harris II was one of those guys. Also, one of those guys was Vinny Pasquantino, who finishes 7th on this list. Another late arrival to the show here, but he makes it on the list. You had to get a minimum of 150 plate appearances, and he just makes it in. Even with the injury, Vinny Pasquantino living up to expectation. I know you like them a lot. I definitely picked them up in a lot of my leagues as well. And well, let me ask you this, Mr. Flannery, who's going to be better for next season, 2023? Vinny Pasquantino, who finishes 7th in the 2022 statistics, in my statistics, in my spreadsheet, or number 9 ranked Bobby Witt Jr. for 2023? Who do you like for next season?
I mean, it's real tough just considering that Bobby Witt brings you kind of the steals potential, plays the premium position defensively. But Vinny Pasquantino, I can't speak. Vinny Pasquantino, he could easily be the best hitter out of all of these guys. Just best pure hitter. Had the highest expected WOBA of any rookie this year, and it wasn't even really close. He had a 374 expected WOBA to go against his 365 WOBA. The next closest one amongst rookies was Lars Nootbaar at 346, so almost a 30-point difference in expected WOBA. He walked more than he struck out. Great batted ball data. He's a hitter. And I don't want to put any crazy early projections on him, but the big burly lefty, good plate discipline, walks a bunch, is growing into his power. Can anybody just kind of peek here and squint and see a Jason Giambi 2.0?
Wow, that'd be something for the Royals. But the Royals are finally having some good players, young players on this list. Usually they kind of hit and miss, or swing and miss on these, but you got 2 of them on the list. And even though Bobby Witt kind of struggled this year, he does make this list, having the 3rd highest WRC, not the WRC plus, but WRC, which is the cumulative stat of weighted runs created. And he places a 9th. The rest of the list, number 4, Joey Meneses, who we talked about, one of those really late bloomers, a good feel-good story. Veteran minor league player, does well, and with the Nationals, right? He was with the Nationals, is what I remember. So yeah, he finishes in 4th. Stephen Kwan, which is one of those guys that we've been talking about all season long, he finishes number 1 in WRC, probably because he had it's a playing time thing. So he
600. I think he had the most plate appearances of anyone. Yes, and he did. He had 638 plate appearances. The next closest one was Witt Jr. at 632, and after that, J-Rod at 560. So those two, Quan and Witt, obviously both played at the top of their lineups basically all year. And so for a counting stat like just WRC, those guys are gonna kind of rise to the top with that playing time.
And there you go. Let's see. That's how Bobby Witt Jr. makes this list, because he wasn't gonna make it, but the playing time helped him and accumulate those offensive statistics, the WRC statistic. And Julio Rodriguez tied for first, actually, with Stephen Kwan. They both get 10 points for their troubles. So Kwan makes it. Brandon Donovan, that's another guy that we talked about throughout the year as someone that you can pick up from waivers and offer all types of eligibility. He played like almost everywhere.
Yep.
And he gets rewarded handsomely, finishing as the 6th best rookie hitter this past season. And his Cardinals teammate, Lars Nootbaar, you mentioned him, he finishes in 8th. And my guy, Jake McCarthy, and he finishes tied for 10th, along with David Villar for the Giants. But McCarthy was one of those guys that every time I would see the minor league numbers, and you know how I'm very strict with the age, he has to be 24 years old in AAA. McCarthy just barely gets in there, but all he did was produce in AAA. So it eventually did transfer over to the majors. So I know you mentioned before on this podcast that he's just a 4th outfielder. Do you still see him that way? Do you still see any future in Jake McCarthy's value?
I do worry a little bit about the hit tool, because this is a guy that ran mid to high 20 strikeout percentage rates in AA and AAA. Struggled in his first bit last year. I don't think he's a 283 hitter. I think there's a lot of speed there and some pop that maybe we were selling short, but he could be a starting outfielder Definitely, but not on a contending team and not on a team like Arizona, who just has so many outfield options. Uh, I wouldn't be surprised if they traded him.
Yeah.
Uh, a team like Miami would make sense.
Mhm.
So when I say he's more of a fourth outfielder, I don't want to say, oh, he can't start anywhere. Because I've had to fight that battle with Brandon Nimmo for years of Mets fans saying he's a fourth outfielder. So there's still some that say it, and I say,
Yeah.
okay, why were like half a dozen teams willing to give a guy 100 something million plus for to be a fourth outfielder? Doesn't make sense. But yeah, Jake McCarthy, interesting set of skills. If he can keep the strikeouts down, he can definitely elevate that floor a little bit. I really worry that maybe they adjust back to him. And he really did. He had a 337 WOBA, 298 expected WOBA, not very good at all, really. So a little bit of luck, but hey, when you have the speed he does, you can sometimes fake it till you make it. So we'll see.
No, yeah, that's a good point. And right now, roster resource has him batting third for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Jake McCarthy, number 3. They're your number 3 hitter.
If they do that, they don't want to win, which is believable. I mean, there's probably still like one more year away, but I don't know how you could bat him third.
Who would you
Um,
bat? I mean,
I would take any of those lefties that are behind him: Josh
all right,
Rojas, Corbin Carroll. Um,
Pavin Smith.
yeah, I'm surprised Pavin's lined up to start. That's actually very interesting.
Hmm. Yeah, well, and Kyle Lewis is also on the team too, so
Yeah,
he could play right field, assuming he could stay on the field for sure. And then I think the Diamondbacks have some guys in their. Yeah, Alec Thomas is a name
yeah,
I
yeah,
noticed
yeah.
wasn't on the list. Who else is
Also, a
on?
guy who's been listed in trade rumors
Mm-hmm.
for a while now. Where do they not have him on the active
He's a,
roster and roster resource?
he's on the minors at the
Oh
moment.
yeah,
He's in the
Uh,
minors.
he's a guy who
He's
if
a
I was the
guy.
Diamondbacks, I would be playing Alec Thomas over Jake McCarthy.
Yep.
But I think Alec Thomas is not long to be a Diamondback. There's just too many whisperings of him being traded because they have so many outfielders. There was the rumor that the Astros were interested in Varsho, uh, but
Mm-hmm.
apparently Diamondback's price was just absolutely sky high.
Which it should be, because
Yeah,
for obvious reasons. For those who don't know what the reasons are, is that, I don't know, he could play catcher and he's pretty damn fast.
and
Not,
he's a Gold Glove center fielder and right fielder that plays catcher.
that's crazy.
It's unheard of. I mean, it's like I know Biggio was a catcher that was a pretty good fielder.
Yeah.
Did he win any Gold Gloves like in the infield? I'd have to go back and look. But what Dalton
Good
Varsho did this
question.
year was just kind of mind-boggling. That one, he was great in right field, and then he was just even better in center field. It really was impressive to see.
So one guy I wanted to throw at you was some guy named Nafi Castillo, who's listed at AA. He's a 21-year-old amateur from Venezuela. Some past the top 25 for the Diamondbacks. But there's another outfielder that the Diamondbacks can lean on besides Alec Thomas. Just talking about all the outfielders that are Jake McCarthy is going to fend off while he's in Arizona. Is he anything to look at, Nafi Castillo?
I would have to look at him. I've never even heard of him. So
Okay, well, obviously
that's a new one for me.
Obviously Drew Jones, who I know he got hurt, but Drew Jones is the first round pick from last year as well,
Yep.
and he too will also be going up. They also have a couple of 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds in Wilderd Patino and Junior Franco, who I need to also look into. Nafi Castillo, not much, a lot of raw power, but that's all he has, just raw power. But again, as long as he's on the team, that's a threat. Strikes out a lot, but that's a threat to Jake McCarthy's job, basically, is what I'm trying to say here. Anyway, off the people, outside the top 10, there's only 17 hitters who qualify here. So from Vaughn Grisham all the way down to Seiza Suzuki, is there one guy you're shocked to see on the list, or you want to point out at the moment, give some shine to right now?
Yeah, I definitely like MJ Melendez there in that
Yeah.
group.
Mm-hmm.
He's a guy who I really liked, even like when he first was a prospect, came up in like 2017, 2018. Had a lot of raw power for a catcher. He was lefty. I love my lefties. But he was running these really high K rates. and then it kind of reached a precipice in 2019. He played, and it almost sounds impossible to do, but 110 games, almost 420 at bats. He had a 39.5% strikeout rate. And you're just like, okay, that he's not a hitter. He can't face advanced pitching. But in that COVID year, he comes back in 2021 and hits a combined 41 home runs between AA and AAA, cutting the strikeout rate to 22%. And as a catcher, you see that type of offensive output, and you're like, holy crap. This year, played in 129 games, 534 plate appearances, was only a 99 WRC plus guy, which you might be like, whoa, what happened there?
Yeah.
But 217, he had a 258 BABIP. He's never run a very high BABIP, even in the minors. But the strikeouts didn't balloon back up into the 30s. They were a solid 24%, with a 12% walk rate. Pretty solid batted ball data. And he's a guy who I think will really be benefited with the shift being kind of getting rid of. I think he's a guy that will be able to take advantage of that for sure.
Currently listed as batting leadoff. Actually, 3 of these rookies for the Royals: Melendez, Bobby Witt Jr., and Vinny Pasquantino. They're batting they're batting in the top 4 in the Royals lineup as of right now, according to Roster Resource. So pretty damn good. I'm not used to talking very glowingly about the Royals in this manner. So
yeah, I mean, I definitely think that division is kind of so weak and up in the air that I don't think they're there yet. I think they're still missing several pieces, but you can kind of squint and you see Vinny, you see Bobby Witt, Drew Waters from the Atlanta Braves organization, who is traded. And it's just the pitching kind of needs to finally get there. We've seen a couple of the guys take that next step. But a lot of speed, good defense, and in a park like that, you need both. And they're an interesting little team for sure.
Yeah. All right. My guy would be Vaughn Grisham. And 2 Braves players, but Vaughn Grisham was one that was kind of a curious situation. And I think he got the playing time because Ozzie Albies got hurt. Is that what happened?
Yeah. So initially, Orlando Arcia got a lot of the playing time, and then Orlando Arcia got hurt. So they had to call up Vaughn Grissom, who had started the year in high A and had only 22 games in double A, not dissimilar from Michael Harris. Had only a handful of games in double A, and then he got called up. And his was kind of interesting. He came out of the came up to the majors just like out of a cannon, and he kind of slowed down a little bit. So we'll see how he adjusts with Dansby leaving. Is he the next shortstop? A lot of people are questioning whether he has the defensive chops to play shortstop at the major league level. So could be an interesting player, and start the season in AAA. You don't know. So,
all right. Well, here's how Sean and I made our selections for the 2022 Total Bases Podcast rookie hitting lineup. It's pretty much the same list. So we both have Adley Rutschman as our starting catcher, Vinny Pasquantino as our starting first baseman, Brendan Donovan as our second baseman, and then we diverged. I stuck with Vaughn Grissom at shortstop, and Sean, ironically enough, went with O'Neal Cruz. Sean's like the biggest O'Neal Cruz hater of all time, but decides to put him at shortstop. I don't hate him. You despise him.
I think he's overrated.
That's hate, man. That's hate.
I think there is a very interesting skill set that he could hit a lot of home runs and steal a lot of bases. And maybe he starts getting, like, if the strikeouts just come down a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, in that lineup, Brian Reynolds is soon to be gone. Like, does he just start getting the Bonds treatment? Like, he could be a guy who, just because he's the only feared person in the lineup, that, like, his walk rate just skyrockets. And like he's posted above average walk rates before in the minors. It's not like he can't do it.
I don't think he could do it.
I don't know. I definitely like him more than Grissom.
That's a good point. I mean, Grissom comes with his own athleticism, but O'Neal Cruz is just a freak of nature. And
Yeah, I mean, it was a 30 home run pace, 20 something
yeah,
stolen bases in half a season's worth of plate appearances. So
but
it's
we're
hard to say no to that.
obviously we're missing from O'Neal Cruz some decent skill level, some
Yeah.
decent skill set, and that's what he's missing. Can he lay off of those breaking pitches outside the strike zone? Can he be more patient? So we'll see what happens. The Pirates don't have a very good track record of
No, they do not.
developing their players, but every year I look at their prospects. I was like, hey, they got some guys here. O'Neal
Oh yeah,
Cruz
they
being one of
definitely.
them.
It's. I think they're trending in the right direction under Sherrington. I know everyone wants to be like lol Pirates, but I've definitely seen an improvement in what the front office is doing, who they've acquired in trades. I mean, minor league player of the year was Endy Rodriguez, who they got for
Yeah,
literally. I mean, they sent Joe Musgrove to San Diego. San Diego sent LaCasey to the Mets, and the Pirates get Endy Rodriguez out of the deal.
yeah,
Like that, and he just was one of the best players in the minors this year.
and there's another guy they got the Pirates.
Yeah, they got a couple of guys in that trade, but
Nick Gonzalez, right? Nick
yeah, Nick
Gonzalez
Gonzalez was the high draft pick.
yeah, and I was gonna mention him at the end of the show if we have time, but then I looked at what he's been doing in the minors, and he's not been impressive, at least not in my
No,
view.
he kind of came alive towards the end of the year, but definitely not living up to that draft pedigree. But definitely has a quality hit tool. It's just how quality is the hit tool in terms of when he does put it in play.
Right. Well, to the outfield, we both have Stephen Kwan, Julio Rodriguez, Michael Harris the second, and where we differ is in our utility position, which for us it's just basically an extra hitter that we add. I have Lars Nootbaar, who selfishly he helped me in a lot of my fantasy leagues this past year, so got to give him props. And then you went with Joey Meneses. So
yeah, I kind of just zagged there so we wouldn't have basically identical lineups. And, got to give some love to the 30-year-old rookie, even if I think it's not repeatable at all.
Right. All right. So who's your AL best hitter here?
I would have to pick for the American League. That'd be Julio Rodriguez.
What about the National League?
Well, yeah, for the rookie of the year, not I guess best hitter. National League would be Michael Harris.
All right, so we are
yes, in agreement there.
Agreement. Move on
there
to
was
the
just
rookies.
so like that in the American League gets so much better hitting rookies.
Yeah. Let's go back. Let's go to the what's the name of these people? Oh, the starting pitchers, right. So once again, just like I did with the veteran starting pitchers, I went with this crazy, wacky spreadsheet where I look at the traditional numbers, so to speak, at least the numbers that we can traditionally use in fantasy baseball: wins, ERA, WHIP, strikeouts. So yeah, you get 10 points for leading a stat, 1 point for placing in 10th. So you got to place in the top 10. And sure enough, the best quote unquote traditional starting pitcher this past year was Spencer Strider. Are you surprised by that, Sean?
No, not really. He was an animal.
Yeah. Joe Ryan, though, number two, even though he was hurt for a majority of the year and he had some shaky starts, he persevered. It was a guy that I was championing for this season, and also one of our guys that we talked about during our
We've been talking
shows.
about him for a while,
going
back
time.
like about 2 years now.
Yeah,
I always liked him, like kind of when he was still an A-ball, and he was one of those guys in the minor leagues when you played out of the park baseball simulator that had 70 grade stuff, like 65, 70 grade command. But his movement, which is like how often the guy gives up home runs and whatnot, his movement was like a 25.
yeah.
So it was like strikeouts, no walks, a lot of home runs. And anytime you get that, the vertical fastball that he really kind of Tampa's known for kind of building it in their guys now, he was just very good at it, good command for a young pitcher. And just got to stay healthy. That's always the key.
George Kirby, another guy who we talked about on those prospects episodes. He finishes number 3. So basically, if you've been paying attention to these prospect episodes, you probably would have benefited and would have picked up these rookie starting pitchers. And I mean, I won a league. You won the other league. Austin made it to the final and the championship in our points league. He was a finalist there. So this is not a coincidence. You got Edward Cabrera. I believe we also spotlighting him in one of the prospect shows. If anything, so that's a guy that we've been talking about for a while now. Hunter Green, that's another guy that I liked a lot. The one thing I drafted him in a couple of my leagues, and I just didn't have the patience for him when he got off to a really bad start, but he did well enough, especially on the strikeouts, to finish in the top 5. Tied with him in the top 5 was Reed Detmers and Joey Wentz and Bryce Elder. So there's a 4-way tie there for 5th place. Bailey Falter finishes in 9th, and Glenn Otto, which is one of the guys that we talked about, maybe not on the prospect show, but someone that we just kind of
we would have talked about him at the deadline in 2021 when the Joey Gallo trade. I liked him. Yeah.
Glenn Otto, despite his struggles, he does do enough to place in the top 10. So let's go. We're not going to mention all these guys because we don't have that kind of time. But if you're watching on YouTube or watching live with us this Monday night, you are seeing the rest of the field there, guys who finished outside of the top 10. So, Mr. Flannery, I ask you, who on that list that I just highlighted from number 11 to number 21st, who is someone you want to talk about from that list?
I mean, there's a lot of good names there. I think Nick Lodolo should be higher on this list. I would definitely take him over the likes of Cabrera and Detmers. I mean, Detmers is pretty close, but definitely Wentz, Elder. I'd pick Lodolo over. Graham Ashcraft has like Emmanuel Clase's repertoire, but as a starter. Kyle Bradish, great stuff. Questionable command.
Aaron By the way,
same boat.
You just stole my thunder. Those are the 4 guys that we talked about in the prospect show. I mean, guys, I don't know what to make of it. I don't want to brag like, hey, we know how to pick them. All right. It's just kind of awesome to see guys that we specifically spotlighted on shows where we specifically are spotlighting minor league pitchers. They finally become rookies in Major League Baseball, and they make it on the rookie list. It's outside the top 10, but they still made it.
Yeah.
All those guys that we spotlighted heavily during those prospects. So this, I'm very happy to see those guys, all of those. Lodolo, Ashcraft, Bradish, even though Bradish was there because of the FIP production that he did while he was with the Orioles, he still proved his worth with them. And Aaron Ashby, which is another guy that we've been kind of high on for the last couple years. He could be
really good, or he could just be whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll always find it interesting that, Graham Ashcraft made almost 20 starts this year. Command for how hard he throws, only 2.5 walks per 9. One of the highest ground ball rates of all rookie starters this year at 54%, 54.5. The strikeouts only 6 per 9 innings. That's not great. That's got to come up. But you have to think that somebody that throws a 99-mile-an-hour cutter, and you can work something off of that. And Cincinnati has kind of, even with Kyle Bodie from Driveline having left a couple years ago, that whole process is still in place in Cincinnati. And I'll always just crack up that I watched him on a chance encounter at a Chattanooga Lookouts game. And I was like, oh, okay, Ellie De La Cruz is, I think Ellie was there. It might have been somebody else, but I was just kind of like, okay, who's this guy that's pumping 100 miles an hour? Like, that I have no clue who he is. And I went back and I looked at his numbers and I was like, oh, wow, this guy's kind of something. I'm going to keep an eye on him. And here he is making 20 starts at the majors. Well, the 4.89 ERA is easy to just like ignore and be like, oh, he sucked. But everything else had him as closer to just a base 4 ERA, which as a rookie pitcher making 20 starts, I think a lot of people would take a 4 ERA.
Yeah, for me, it's
and in that ballpark.
Quickly, I just want to mention that Braxton Garrett, besides the 4 guys you mentioned, or that I'm glad you mentioned, because otherwise I would have mentioned them in a group. But Braxton Garrett's another guy who helped me in my fantasy leagues this year for the Marlins. So I want to just give him a quick shout out. Let's go over to the advanced metrics. And again, that's the F4, the FIP, XFIP, and Sierra. What are those? You're probably asking, but basically what these statistics in a very dumb nutshell kind of way. Can you strike out guys? Can you control your walks? Can you control home runs? And are you able to, what would your numbers look like if we would to, what am I trying to say here?
If there was no defense.
If there was no defense, and if you can control for the balls in play and also the home runs given up. So there you go. Advanced metrics. Again, Spencer Strider, just killing it. I think, yeah, he swept actually. He swept, and he was a win or two away from getting 10 points in wins. Otherwise, he would have swept the entire thing here. But Spencer Strider sweeping the metrics, followed by George Kirby, who, remember, I traded him straight up for Jacob deGrom when it looked like Jacob deGrom was never going to come back. I was happy with the trade. I was happy with the results. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure. Nick Lodolo. So there you go. The advanced metrics actually love Nick Lodolo better than the traditional numbers. So Nick Lodolo is another guy I picked up in one or two of my leagues and in my categories leagues, and he helped make that stretch run for me. Obviously, it wasn't enough against you. There's Braxton Garrett, who I just spoke glowingly about not
Former
too long
classmate
ago.
of mine.
Braxton Garrett.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that small world.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. For 1 year, he was, I think, only in 8th grade, but pitching on the varsity team.
Wow.
And then his dad went and was a coach elsewhere in Alabama and Foley down by Mobile. And he went to high school at Foley, but he played on my high school's team for a year. And then, of course, he was on the U.S. under-18 team that went to Japan, and he pitched really well when he went over there. So it was pretty cool.
Wow.
We're all like back in the States, like watching like all these like crappy streams on the computer labs, like trying to watch.
Oh, I thought you went.
Oh,
something
no,
happened.
you're
Okay.
good. You're good.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say Braxton Garrett. He went from being Sean's classmate to helping me try to tread water with my pitching staff in fantasy league. So happy that has come full circle for him. Hunter Green, obviously. Brian Bello. There's a guy we haven't talked about. Brian Bello has a special place forever in my heart because he was one of those guys, one of those starting pitchers that helped me defeat Austin in our podcast league. So I'm very happy with that. He finishes in 6th, and that's one of your guys that you mentioned in the podcast and in the prospects show that we did earlier this year. So that's pretty cool to see him, the advanced metrics liking him and good enough to be finishing in 6th place. Andre Palante, there's a guy, Cardinals, but every time I saw him, I didn't know much about him and I kept ignoring him, but apparently he did well enough for the advanced metrics to like him and finishing in 7th. Give me a quick sentence or two about Andre Palante.
He was like the swing man. I think he made some starts. Yeah, I'm seeing here 47 games, 10 of them starts, 108 innings, never strikes anybody out, but posted a 64% ground ball rate. And I don't have to be a genius to say a 64% ground ball rate when you have Nolan Arenado at 3rd, Tommy Edman at short, whoever the hell they had at 2nd, and Paul Goldschmidt at 1st is a good thing to do. So definitely one of those guys who pitched to his strengths. The strikeouts and walks weren't very good, but just enough. Didn't give up many home runs, so kept the ball in the yard.
All right, moving on. Reed Detmers, the one bright spot of the Angels, aside from obviously Shohei Ohtani. He's number 8. Number 9 is Aaron Ashby. So again, the advanced metrics loving some pitchers better than the traditional numbers. And running out the top 10 is Joe Ryan. So again, since we talked about a lot of these other pitchers, excuse me, let me go back a little bit up. So you see from number 11 to number 18, those are the other top 18 pitchers outside the top 10 that finish in the advanced metrics. Is there somebody in particular you want to kind of spotlight at the moment?
Probably. I'm interested in Ken Waldichuk.
Number 16 on the list. Yep.
Came up in the trade for Frankie Montas during at AAA. Before the trade, he had pitched in 11 games, had a K per 9 north of 13. Kind of more of a fly ball guy, which you would think portends itself to helping now pitching half his games at the Coliseum. But it was a little bit of a rough start. 4.93 ERA, FIP slightly over 4. Had some good starts, had some bad starts, but I think it was very encouraging seeing him make his last start of the season against the Angels through 7 scoreless with only 3 hits allowed. He got roughed up by a couple of good teams. Texas was his 3rd start, gave up 5 runs, and then gave up a combined 9 runs between Houston and the Mets. So really, you got to take that ERA with a grain of salt. As his 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6 starts, Atlanta, Texas, Houston, the Mets, and Seattle. That's a murderer's row to face as you're just getting your feet wet in the majors. But I definitely I like the stuff. I like the kind of the savviness. The breaking ball is definitely a huge plus, and the changeup's really good as well.
All right. The third category that we do is tradition. I added both the traditional numbers with the advanced metrics, and once again, Spencer Strider just dominating, followed by George Kirby, George Ryan, Nick Lodolo, Hunter Green. This is why I like the Reds. If you include Graham Ashcraft as well, I mean, there's a lot of promise to that rotation. And again, it's kind of a fool's goal to chase those promising young pitchers, but it's hard to ignore just what that's why I kind of like the Reds a little bit more than the Cubs in terms of what they're trying to do on the rebuild. I know the Cubs signed, they made a big splashy move in Dansby Swanson, which probably does wonders for the rest of the lineup. And actually, to their Cubs credit, they are looking better than last year around this time when they had a bunch of 30-year-olds. Now they have a bunch of 25-year-olds, so that's good. But something about that Reds farm system, man, I can't help but like a little bit more than the Cubs, and part of the reason is because Nick Lodolo and Hunter Green did a wonderful job holding their own in a very tough situation in Cincinnati. And again, you add Graham Ashcraft, if he could just figure out, like you mentioned, how to be more dominant with his stuff and get more strikeouts, that could be scary. So yeah, just that's the top five, and it's the usual suspects with everybody else. I'm not gonna name the rest of the list there, but again, the last one is, if my computer can just cooperate with me just a little bit, and I believe this one would be strikeouts plus whatever this advanced metric in column L is. So yeah, that's what it is. So you add the strikeouts, which is the cumulative stat, and you add it to the rest of the rate stats. And again, Spencer Strider just dominating and beating out George Kirby by 9 points. Nick Lodolo finishing in third, Hunter Green in fourth, and our guy Braxton Garrett finishing in fifth. And of course, Reed Detmers, Joe Ryan, Brian Bello, Palante, and Ashby with the double-digit points rounding out the top 10. So that was the year in starting pitchers. And how does our pitching list, our starting pitchers look like? It's all the same. Let me make this bigger. It's the same. It's identical. I mean, is there really? Yeah, I can't think of anybody I would have had here. So I have Spencer Strider and George Kirby as my two best pitchers in each league. So my American League and National League. Is that the way you have it there, Sean, too, as well?
Yeah, that's it. All
right, and then followed by Hunter Green as SP3, Nick Lodolo SP4, Joe Ryan SP5, and Reed Detmers as SP6. So congratulations.
The SP6, I probably could have gone a few different ways. It was just kind of Detmers made the second or third most starts out of all rookies. So made 25 starts. So good for him. Stayed healthy, which is, we can talk about what they're, how well they did. Like, we can talk about Spencer Strider just going kind of ape shit for 20 starts, but it's only 20 starts. The building up of these guys' arms, staying healthy, that's a big part of the value. Because I mean, especially early in your career, if you start dealing with this stuff early in your career, it really gets me worried for 5, 6, 7 years down the line. And Reed Detmers kind of seems like one of those guys, George Kirby as well, that just kind of go out there. They have the easy, fluid, repeatable motion compared to some of these guys like, Hunter Green, Strider, the kind of the max effort guys. Although Hunter Green makes it look easy, but you can tell it's kind of a full force delivery.
Well, I'm going to make some bold predictions on all these 6 guys, so bear with me here.
Go for it.
Spencer Strider will be on the IL more often than not next year and might require some serious surgery on his right arm. George Kirby will be the best pitcher on this list when it's all said and done. Hunter Green will continue to dominate, but he will still have a 4.5 ERA. Nick Lodolo will probably be the best pitcher of this list in terms of the National League side of things. I love Nick Lodolo for next year, and I think he's gonna do wonders. Joe Ryan's gonna see a lot of time in AAA, unfortunately.
You think so?
I'm just making bold predictions.
Oh, okay, okay.
But of the guys on this list, I could definitely see him, for all the 6 pitchers here, I can definitely see him And I love Joe Ryan, as you know, but
Yeah.
I think the Twins are gonna say, you know what, kid, why don't you go back down to AAA and figure this stuff out? Because he does seem to be the least dominant of the 6 pitchers here, but he persevered and he lasted throughout the season. So we got to give him credit for that.
I just want to say that Roster Resource has Joe Ryan as SP2
Oh God,
over both Tyler Molly, Kenta Maeda, and Bailey Ober.
oof, yeah, that's a tough sell for me. But
Yeah, I mean, they do have a lot of arms in AAA already as well, including top prospects like Cole Sands, Jordan Balazovic, and Simeon Woods Richardson, aka the longest last name on a jersey in Major League Baseball right now. I mean, it's literally a rainbow on his back. It's bigger than Salsa Lamakia, which I never thought was going to happen.
And Reed Detmers, he's going to see some time in the bullpen. Give me one bold prediction for one of these guys so we can move on here. By the way, I made these out of thin air, by the way.
Hunter Green leads the league in strikeouts next year.
I love it.
Like I don't know where to go with that. I feel very uncomfortable with the whole situation.
Man, I gotta push you to get outside your comfort zone sometimes, you know. But like I said, I made these up out of thin air. I have no basis for reasoning. I know Strider got hurt last year, but I think that was a leg injury, not his arm injury. But still, like you mentioned, going apeshit, and that I think it's a violent delivery from him. But
it is. It definitely is.
And George Kirby, I just love the guy. I mean, I love him enough to just give up on Jacob deGrom and get him in that straight up in that trade. So anyway, rookie relief pitchers. Ooh, this is an ugly scene here. Mm-hmm. And
look at that pink.
That's what she said. Actually, that's what he said while he was grilling.
Yeah. Let's continue.
Anyway, as you can see, I can not fit everybody's name on this thing. And you know what? Looks like I didn't even finish this correctly. I still have extra fields. Very professional of me right here. So you know what? We're gonna have to do the view. I feel like John Madden. Oh, you want to do the view, and then boom.
We need to get you a telestrator. I've seen your pictures that we do in the history group.
Yeah, the maps.
Yeah, with the maps. But we need to get you a Zoom telestrator.
You know what, Sean? Ask and you shall receive. So what you got here? You got the holds. I did it by holds and saves. You know, John Schreiber of the Brett side got points for holds and saves. So that's one aspect of it. So let me take that out. I just want to quickly point out that John Schreiber. Do you like John Schreiber, Sean?
Yeah, he was pretty good. I didn't know really who he was coming into the year, but kind of had one of those sneaky seasons. He had shown it some of the stuff before, because I went back and he was not like a traditional rookie, and I'm over here having a stroke trying to type in his name on Fangraphs. But yeah, he had actually debuted in 2019, and he posted these numbers that came with like a 6 ERA, but in 13 innings had a 13K per 9 with good walks, just gave up a good amount of home runs. Then only pitched in one game last year and went 3 innings, struck out 5. So we kind of saw some of this coming. But for him to do what he did was pretty impressive for a 28-year-old rookie that most people probably hadn't even heard of.
I just don't trust any Red Sox pitchers at this point. Can't do it. Don't do it. Can't win with them. Moving on to the traditional statistics. And again, ERA, whip, strikeouts, those are those are 3 stats that you see in traditional roto leagues. And I included the saves as well for the points. And finishing at the top is Alexis Diaz, your guy.
That's
at
my
number
dude.
1. Felix Bautista at number 2. It's actually tied for 2 with Joan Duran. So those are 2 guys that I really like a lot. Joan Duran was one of my guys from the prospect list shows that we did about a year or 2 ago. So I'm glad. I mean, we were projecting him to be a starting pitcher, but obviously the Twins converted him into a relief pitcher. So, but Bautista was also a nice pitcher that we liked. It said that we don't trust the Orioles. We didn't trust his walk. If he can control his walks, and sure enough, he did. Getting 9 points for the whip. Andres Munoz, there's a guy that we both adored, absolutely adored. So
I remember even talking about when he got traded, and I was just we went back and forth, and we're like, "What's San Diego doing?" Like I know he was coming off Tommy John, but it's like you got back Austin Nola. Like, and you traded
Yeah.
Munoz. It
Yeah,
didn't make any sense.
and that's with
It
them.
felt like they were just didn't believe in him coming back at all, which was silly.
No, well, it was more indicative of them not believing in Austin Hedges.
Yeah.
And then they quickly bring up Austin Hedges because they want to get rid of Yasmani Grandal. So it's like this revolving door of catchers. And I mean, Austin Nola is a decent hitting catcher, but
I think Grandal had been gone for a while at that point.
yeah, I'm just trying to base it off memory. I know that Grandal was a catching prospect for them. Then the next thing you know, Austin Hedges is a guy that they like. And the next thing you know, they don't like anybody, and now
they don't like anyone.
And then we're still waiting on Luis Camposano as well, but you
Yep.
can't do anything because Austin Nola.
Got to get Austin Nola's playing time. Got to
Anyway,
justify trading Andres Munoz for him.
Brock Burke, I think he's with the Rangers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got some points for
Good lefty.
Yeah, for the ERA and the strikeouts. Brian Abreu, World Series hero for the Astros. Camilo Doval, getting 10 points for the saves, so he gets additional points for the strikeouts as well. Jimmy Herget.
Oh, he was. If you go watch his stuff on Pitching Ninja, he's what were they calling him? The human frisbee, human alien, something stupid. Just throws this ungodly slider that should not be allowed. It makes no sense. It breaks physics. The traditional numbers, the strikeouts, not great. Or I mean, they're solid. Doesn't walk that many guys. Definitely an uncomfortable look in the batter's box to righties. So kind of more of a matchup guy, I'd say.
Yeah, that's one of those guys. I even have, as much as we focus on relief pitchers here, Sean, I never even heard of him until he showed up on this list. So shame on me. What team does he play for again?
The Angels.
Oh, that's why I never heard of him before. Who cares about the Angels? John Schreiber, we just talked about him. He got the points for the saves and the whip, so good for him. And Joe Barlow also with the Rangers, right?
Barlow.
Joe Barlow. I know there's a
Joe
Scott
Barlow is the Rangers, I believe.
Because Scott Barlow's with the Royals. Okay, never mind. Okay, so that's the top 10 and a bunch of other pitchers that you guys never heard about, but just want to give a special spotlight to at least one guy.
Maraschino Cherry.
Sure.
Ron Marinaccio.
Yeah. And again, as much as I like the Yankees bullpen, well, not this year, but in years past, there's a guy I kind of slept on. I didn't hear about him until I made this list.
I'm really not crazy about him. I just like saying Maraschino Cherry because the name looks like that to me.
Alex Vegia, I know that's a guy.
That's the dude right there.
And of course, AJ Puke. We're gonna talk more about Vegia, but I want to mention AJ Puck or Puke, or however you say his name. Yeah. Former outstanding starting pitching prospect for the A's, but converted to relief.
Well, hold your breath. They're expected to attempt to stretch him out to be a starter next year.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, part of me is like excited because it's like, yes, AJ Puck's a thing again, and he's not a thing again.
Yeah, I'm not gonna hold my breath there. Advanced metrics, almost sweeping the advanced metrics was Andres Munoz. He didn't get enough on the FIP, but obviously, you and I would agree that he was probably the best pound for pound relief rookie pitcher.
Yeah.
This season, followed by Juan Duran, who got off to a great start, but then he kind of fizzled out as the Twins were really using the crap out of him. Brian Abreu, Alex Vegia, Felix Bautista, Joe Mantiply tied for fifth with Felix Bautista, Giovanni Moran, who I have no idea who that is either.
These Twins lefty, really good changeup, silly strikeout numbers in the minors.
Okay, our guy Matt Brash faltered as a starting pitcher, but completely redeemed himself as a relief pitcher, finishing in 8th. Your guy Alexis Diaz finishing in 9th, along with John Schreiber. And there's a guy finishing at number 12 is Scott Efros, former Cub, and ended up with the Yankees, right?
Efros, yes. And then I think he just underwent Tommy John.
Of course he did.
Yeah, already had to get Tommy John.
But look, an old favorite of ours, Hunter Harvey, just sneaks into this list.
He still had rookie eligibility?
Apparently
No.
so. Whatever
No.
Fangraphs put up there, that's what I went with. So if Fangraphs says he's a rookie, then damn it, he's a rookie.
Oh wow, he did. Six
Yeah.
innings in 19, and then 8 2/3 in both 20 and 21. Wow.
That's
And
what
he's only
Robert's
27. I would expect him to be like 30 at this point.
me too. So, but yeah, that's the Orioles for you. They chew you up and spit you out for you to be successful somewhere else. Kevin Gossman, for example, or even Tanner Scott, who we talked about a while back ago, because he strikes out a lot of guys. Tanner Scott does.
Of
Anyway,
course, yeah.
and again, you with the holds and the saves plus the traditional and advanced metrics, Andres Munoz once again dominates the field. Joan Duran, Felix Bautista, Brian Abreu, Alex Diaz. And I'm not going to name all the other guys because we're running short on time. And when you add the strikeouts into the whole saves, traditional numbers, and the advanced metrics, again, Andres Munoz doesn't dominate as much, but still number one, followed by Joan Duran, who only loses by 8 points. Felix Bautista, Alexis Diaz, Brian Abreu. There's John Schreiber there at number 6, Alex Beja, Joe Mantiply, whatever his name is,
Yeah.
Jimmy Herget, and Camilo Doval tied for 9th, so on and so forth. So we talked about all the guys that we liked outside the top 10. Let's go on to our picks. Let's make this a little bit. Oh, it's already at 250%. There you go. And of course, I believe, we went the same 6 pitchers again. So Andres Munoz is RP1, Bautista at RP2, Joan Duran at RP3, Alexis Diaz at RP4, Brian Abreu RP5, and Alex Beja at RP6. Who's your AL NL people?
I am going to zag when you zigged. I'm going to go with Felix Bautista. I think the stuff is just as good as Andres Munoz, and he has the Omar whistle as his entrance, which is just so much cooler than just about any other closer entrance aside from Edwin Diaz's Narco.
And what about the NL? Is it
NL, I think we only have the one. Well, there's actually 2, Diaz and
Yeah.
Vesia. Easy for me to pick Diaz. I've been in on him for a while now, but I'll give it to Alex Vesia, the lefty who Miami just kind of gave up on. And I believe the Dodgers got him off waivers. It wasn't even a trade. It might have been a post DFA trade, but Vesia was a guy I had kept eyes on when he was in Miami. He even came up a little bit, and he had really good strikeout numbers. So it's like anytime that reliever pops up, I'm always in my 30 team GM mode where, okay, if this reliever comes up and he can strike out a lot of guys on a bad team, maybe he becomes the closer. And then you kind of start building towards that thought process. But didn't really work out. They gave up on him, and the Dodgers turned him into one of the most underappreciated relief pitchers of the 2022 season.
All right, let's look towards the future. Who's going to make this list next year? And I have a list, but another spreadsheet tab. I haven't sent it to you because I want to surprise you with some of these names. But it's also not a completed spreadsheet because I don't know if we're going to be able to talk about all these guys. So I did say 15, right? Yep, I got 15 names. And the way I did it is I went into the Fangraphs top 100. I picked 5 guys. Well, here's how I did it by position. I picked 1 catcher, 1 middle infielder, 1 corner infielder, 1 outfielder, and 1 starting pitcher. And I did it by levels. So if you finished in the MLB last year, I picked 1 of each of those position players. If you finished in AAA last year, the season in AAA last year, I did the same thing: catcher, middle infielder, corner infielder, outfield, starting pitcher. And AA, same thing: catcher, middle infielder, corner outfielder. Blah, 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 blah. But since Sean, you were in the dark on my method to my madness, give me 1 name that you're looking forward to, and I'll see if if that player's on my list over here or not.
I'm gonna go with Josh Young.
Damn, that's not who I have, but okay, I like it. I like it a lot.
Already at the major league, or already made his major league debut. I think that Texas Rangers team the arrow is definitely pointing up. I think he is entering a lineup where he doesn't have to be the guy with guys like Seager and going to be another full year removed from that. I think it was hip or shoulder labrum injury that he had. Really like him. I think he's going to fit nicely into that little third base area and could be a promising young star for the Rangers.
I was going to put him in there, but I decided not to because I like this other player just a little bit more. And there's Josh Young right there, number 15 on the Fangraphs Top 100, did finish in MLB. So that's where I have him. But my corner infielder who's already in the major league level, who qualifies for next season, Gunnar Henderson. I know that's a guy
I've liked Gunnar a lot. So
you liked, and when I saw the numbers, I also went on board. And you know how I do. My thing is completely random to the way you do it. And every time I filter the crap out of the minor league numbers, Gunnar Henderson's name just showed up time and time and time again. So yeah, and I already have him in my in our baseball life league as well. I think he's going to be one of my keepers because that's how much I like him, along with Bobby Witt Jr. So listen, man, if these guys falter, I'm going to be so mad. All right, so that's a corner infielder. Let's go with middle infielder, major league level. You know what? No, let's do something different. Let's do middle infielder, AAA level. Do you have a guy like that or no?
Trying to think middle infield, AAA. There's probably
you know what?
Volpe.
Forget what I said.
Volpe's really the only one off the top of my head.
Yeah, and that's the guy I have on my list too. But who's next on your list? We should just do it by your list, and I'll see if it matches with what I have here. Who's next on your list there?
To make an impact next year.
Yeah.
You want to go pitcher? Just to
sure, whatever you want, man. Just let me know what level they finished in.
I think it's going to be AA, and I think that he will be called up a little bit early from pure dominance, and he will be needed on the major league staff, and that's Andrew Painter.
Nice.
First round draft pick, 6'6", right-hander for the Phillies. He was dominant last year. I mean, the numbers are stupid and speak for themselves. Was probably the best minor league pitcher in the minors last year. And he threw a good amount of innings. I believe he threw at least 100 innings or right around 100 innings. So elite strikeout numbers. Barely walked batters. Only thing I'd worry about is it was a pretty low ground ball rate and a fly ball pitcher in what's the name of that ballpark?
Citizens Bank.
Yeah, Citizens Bank. There you go. It might be a little risky being a fly ball pitcher there.
Future value, number 60. Well, my guy for starting pitcher out of AA, we talked about him earlier this year for the Miami Marlins. Yuri Perez, the big effer, the big 6'8" freaker out there, freak of nature. I want to see him succeed. I want to see a basketball player on the mound for the Miami Marlins. It's going to be a tough hill for him to get to because they do, as you know, Sean, Marlins are loaded at starting pitcher as it is with their major league roster. But I have a feeling that they're going to start trading some of these guys away. You know what I mean?
I don't know what they're going to do because I feel like I've been reading a lot of stuff about the Miami offseason so far. They've done basically nothing. And free agents don't want to go there. Apparently, they had the highest offer to Justin Turner, and he did not want to go there. And a lot of rumblings of what I'm hearing is that although they do have a lot of depth with their pitching and that they have upside, Edward Cabrera, Jesus Luzardo, a lot of these guys, their value isn't as high as what a lot of fantasy people like us would think because we've known these guys to be top prospects. But even the ones in the minors, Yuri Perez, Jake Eater, Max Meyer, a lot of them have suffered injuries. There's injury concern. It's a tough sell for a team to trade a proven major league star. Like Brian Reynolds would be a perfect fit for the Miami Marlins, and the Marlins probably match up well that they could trade some of those starters. But it's a tall order to trade a proven guy like Brian Reynolds, and you get back one or two of those arms, and they might not ever pitch in the big leagues. So it's I don't think teams are biting on the Marlins' young pitching like a lot of people just thought they would. Be like, okay, they have pitching, they can acquire hitters via trade. It's not really working out like that for Kim Ng.
Yeah, I mean, I could see because pitchers are a little bit riskier for sure, but I could definitely see a desperate team looking at Pablo Lopez and say, hey, let's see if we can get him for, I don't know, something.
And that's the thing is I think Miami is trying to value him as like a number 2 or possibly even a number 1 on a lower team. And I think on a contender, he's a 3. And it's he had that great beginning. Yeah, he had a great first half last year that a lot of people were like, yeah, he's a number 2 starter. I'm not really sure he is.
I still see them. I still see them trying to get rid of both Pablo Lopez and Trevor Rogers, and then you make room for Yuri Perez. I know he's really young. I think he'll be 20 years old by the time the season starts next season, but he's going to be in AAA. I want to see if he can make that jump from AAA to Major League Baseball next year. Because he's just, I don't know. For me, he's just an exciting player to keep an eye on.
Yeah.
Who's next on your list there?
Oh, right here. Let me go back. Let me find a name. Let's go with Taj Bradley, another pitcher. AAA.
Where's he at? AAA. Okay.
Tampa.
Yep, I know who he is. All right. So Taj Brad. Yeah, I already mentioned that. So Taj Bradley. I forgot if he was one of the guys that we mentioned before on the prospect show, but the problem with that is that the Rays are usually loaded with the starting pitchers. And is there going to be room for him? You're not concerned?
I think it will. Just because I don't believe their depth is as strong as it usually is compared to other years. They did add Zach Eflin, but right now they're 1 and they're 2 that you're relying on. They're going to rely on heavily is Shane McClanahan and Tyler Glasnow. I think there is a very healthy amount of injury risk between those two. Of course, the talent upside is they might be the best 1-2 in the big leagues. The downside is they might combine for less than 100 innings. I wish that was a joke, but that could possibly be a thing.
Well, it's funny to me because the Rays, they love just combining players and pretending that they're one player, and that's how they get value. I want to point out,
Shane Baz is still recovering from Tommy John surgery, so there's an arm that normally would have fit in. I don't know if they think Patino is a starter anymore. They keep moving him back and forth.
Yeah.
So I think Taj Bradley has a chance. It's either him, Luis Patino, or somebody like Yanni Chirinos or Josh Fleming, who are guys that they've really used more as followers rather than true starters.
Yeah, that's my concern. My concern is that, again, that's what I was talking about, the Rays having depth. Even though those guys you just mentioned are not big names, they're not big arms, they're nothing to brag about. Well, Patino is a big arm, but nothing to brag about. It's still traffic for Taj Bradley, and so that would be my concern. My slam dunk pick at AAA, though, you'll know who it is. You know who's gonna be. It's gonna be Grayson Rodriguez.
Oh,
that's gonna be a guy, and it's not fair to say, well, that's my guy. That's one person I am enamored with. The more I read about him, the more I saw what he did, with the Orioles farm system. The more video I see of him, I can't help but get excited. This is a guy I almost traded Julio Rodriguez straight up for in our points league, just because I absolutely love the kid. And if I'm gonna, give up on a rookie like Julio Rodriguez, it would be for a guy like Grayson Rodriguez. I was this close to doing it. Mind you, I still end up getting Grayson Rodriguez in a separate trade. Still, I can't wait to see him. And with the Orioles having no legit, pitcher that's trustworthy, as you know how I feel about the Orioles.
Yeah.
Right?
You're only going to get your heart hurt. You're just building it up to, this is like your villain origin story for like burning down the Orioles or something.
Well, right now, Grayson Rodriguez is penciled in as the number 5 starter. I couldn't be happier with what I'm seeing right now.
You're just going to get yourself hurt.
No way, man. This is it. This is the guy.
Orioles are going to sign Rich Hill. They're going to sign Rich Hill.
The hell out of here,
dude! There's an actual rumor. I
don't care. Those are rumors.
Yeah,
Grayson Rodriguez is a smart choice.
I'm sorry, but Grayson Rodriguez cannot debut in the majors. They have to start Rich Hill. It's the law. I need it to happen just so I can see you rage at the screen for a solid 15 minutes.
Listen, man, I've been on this Orioles farm system for a very long time now, Sean. I've been through the Dylan Bundys of the world, the Jake Arrietas, the Kevin Gossmans. Even to this day, you saw how big of a fanboy I turned into for Kevin Gossman the last couple of years, and it started right here with freaking Orioles. Who else? I mean, this is who's Brian Mattis? Jesus Christ!
Oh, that's a name.
They just gave up on him and just moved into the bullpen because he's a left-handed pitcher. But I think this is the guy. This is the guy that's gonna redeem the Orioles development and farm system. And Yeah, and plus the big wall in left field, everything's. I mean, if crappy ass pitchers like freaking Jordan Lyles and Kyle British can turn into Cy Young candidates for these people who were enamored by the Orioles this year, wait until you see Grayson Rodriguez. Anyway, let's do two more guys. Who else you got over there?
Crap. I had it closed out. He's probably not going to be in your top 100, and this is me throwing you a curveball, and that is Edouard Julien. I think he has the clearest line to playing time. Second baseman, kind of the opposite of Luis Arias, in that instead of the 80 grade contact tool, it's the 80 grade plate discipline approach. This is a guy who this year posted in 508 plate appearances, not a small sample size, a 441 on base, 441. And then he proceeded to go to the AFL this year against some of the top talent in the minor leagues in the Arizona Fall League and absolutely strafe them. And of course, he's a left-handed hitter, 17 home runs. He stole 19 bases. Last year in 2021, he split time between A and high A. He had a 168 WRC plus, a 144 WRC plus, and then this year in double A, once again, a 144 WRC plus. I think if the Twins are looking to trade some bats like Luis Arias or Max Kepler, I think the spot for Edouard Julien could open very fast, and I think he has the advanced approach to where he doesn't have to be in AAA. He can hit major league pitching right now and be an elite top of the lineup bat.
That's fine, man. I love curveballs. I love watching them. I love watching them go by me. So I'm a patient guy.
Unless you're Carlos Beltran.
Well, I was gonna say unless you're O'Neill. I was gonna say unless you're an O'Neill Cruz and you're just hacking at everything, at every curveball. So I guess you can mark this down as a middle infielder from Double A, right?
Yes.
Well, my guy's Ellie De La Cruz. The pickings were slim at Double A, according to the Fangraphs Top 100. And mind you, I was also looking for anybody that was not on the top 100 either. But it's hard to ignore Ellie De La Cruz. As much as I make fun of O'Neill Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz is going to be the next version of O'Neill Cruz if he does eventually get called up next year. And for all the reasons that we mentioned on this show, time and time again in previous episodes, De La Cruz has the power, the speed, the height, the size, all the physical attributes you can want from an everyday player. Let's go one more. Give me one more guy, Sean, and we'll call it a night.
Oh God, I'm a throwback to you. I'm a throwback to you.
Man,
you pick one off your list.
Oh man, I was counting on you so I can just kind of scratch him off my list. So just give me one guy.
Oh, I'm drawing a blank. All
right.
My brain is running out of fuel here.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Who have we not talked about? So we got two guys from Double A. We got one guy from Triple A and one from Major League Baseball. All right, break it down. Make it simple for me. Want me to go MLB or Triple A?
MLB.
Damn it. Okay, that's fine. Let's go with Hunter Brown. That's a guy that Austin and I we kind of. Make sure you make sure you give me an MLB guy in your end. By the way, a rookie MLB guy. So Hunter Brown is a guy that Austin and I, when we were doing our spreadsheet for the 2022 season, there he was at the bottom of the starting pitching list, Hunter Brown, because he was supposed to get a few starts here and there with the Astros, but his rate stats look really good for a rookie. And I go, hey, and I made a mental note for myself. That's a guy we got to keep an eye on. So Hunter Brown, Astros pitcher, it looks like he's going to be starting unless the Astros do something else. At least when I was doing this list, it looked like he was starting. No, he's not starting anymore. Astros are just too deep. The Astros are just too good. Deep. They're too damn good. Where is Hunter Brown anyway? Hunter Brown, AAA, along with Forrest Whitley. Remember him?
Not exactly a name you want to bring up for somebody that has fulfilled their potential and contributed at the major league level.
But I could definitely see Jose Urquidy, struggling and getting sent back to the bullpen or even getting traded. Luis Garcia has also had, seen issues with control here and there. And Lance McCullers, he's, I better be careful how I describe him. I was going to say an old 29-year-old, but no, Lance McCullers, I don't know, man. But yeah, and it's tough to trust a guy like Hunter Brown who does not have a lot of experience, but he does come equipped with a decent fastball, some really good breaking pitches, especially the curveballs. Curveball is going to be his moneymaker apparently. Still a work in process. Did show up for a cup of coffee last year and was able to hold his own. So I want to see more of that for next season. Give me a triple A. I'm sorry, Major League Baseball starting pitcher.
Oh, was over here and I had a hitter. Cade Cavalli. I think he got
yes.
sorry, excuse me. I think he got
Bless
kind of
you.
lost in the shuffle last year, getting called up real late by Washington. But one of those real good power arms. It wasn't a very good debut, but I don't read too much into your first. He made one start. That's what it was, and he got
And then
blown.
he got hurt. Yeah.
He got his tit slit, as Keith Hernandez would say.
I thought he did get hurt though.
I'm not sure if he was injured. Yeah, okay. It was I'm seeing his roto wire. It said something about his shoulder day to day. So his start was the end of August. So August. So he missed September. But yeah, it was a 4 1/3, gave up 7 earned runs, but 6 strikeouts. The stuff is there. And he's penciled into the opening day rotation. So unlike some of these other guys, we know what he's going to do. He's not going to be stuck in the minors.
So there's the rest of the list. Again, apologies for it looking so non-colorful or anything, but I did this kind of on the fly. While I was doing the other spreadsheets, I kind of did this on the fly. But there's the other names we didn't get a chance to talk about. So there's Francisco Alvarez, Oswald Peraza for me, Corbin Carroll, Andy Rodriguez, Anthony Volpe, Matt Mervis, George Valera, Miguel Amaya, Bryce Ball, Bryce Ball, because I couldn't. Sean, this is the first time I realized that corner infield, the lower you get, the lower level you get in the farm systems, the worse these corner infielders look. And Bryce Ball wasn't the best, wasn't the worst. I mean, but he didn't look like impressive either. It's a homer pick. He's a Cub player, so I want to see if that trade comes up.
I see a first baseman who last year had a 405 slug.
It's gonna be bad, but
Eric Hosmer.
The pickings were pretty slim when you
and
get down.
he has a slightly elevated ground ball rate. He is Eric Hosmer. Is he an overrated defender too?
Oh, damn, man. And then of course my guy Robert Hassel III, who is he's the next in the lineage of the Christian Yelich lineage there. So Robert Hassel III will be my new project to look at as I continue to look for the next Christian Yelich. So far, Jock Peterson has been up and down. Who else is on that list that I keep telling you about? Josh Lowe failed miserably last year. Jerry Kalenic can't walk, or he strikes out too much, so he's a failure. So yeah, so that's what I was going with when I was doing this. So and here are your picks, Sean, just for the record. So there it is. Hopefully, what?
Oh, hello? I was just saying ta-da for
or
my lineup.
Okay. Well, like I said, I didn't give you. I left it open ended for you, but this ended up being a nice little exercise, and we kind of were matching in terms of the levels and all that. So, so there you go. This year's rookies and tomorrow's rookies of the year candidates. Any last words from you, Sean, before we let you go?
This is it. I need some food.
Ditto. I'm hungry as well. That's Sean over there. I am Felipe. We will see you next time. Take care, everybody.
Adios, guys.